Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Friday, November 22nd. We got another NBA Cup night tonight, and we will be breaking down the games on both FanDuel and Draftkings. To those who played FanDuel yesterday, I hope you were able to get your lineups in, and for those that did not, can't wait till we all get refunded. But now let's dig into it. I am Tyler Wiemann at FlatTyler83 on your DFS sites and on the old Twitter. Now, let's get into it. We got 7 free day trial. If you go through the app stores, download LionStar app, LionStar DFS, search us. It'll come up on both Android or iOS, and you can get access to everything we see here as well as the apps, the props, all the DFS tools. You get it all one low price. Now, let's dig into the slate. All right, on to point guard. We got 8 games tonight, and the highest owned is Ayo. Look, he is playing some extra minutes. We got Patrick Williams out, so I think these, 30-ish minutes is fairly secure. The thing is that he is still coming off the bench. His usage is still low because everybody else, when he is playing with the starters with his additional minutes, he just doesn't have a very high usage when those other guys are on the court. So I don't love his ceiling in this spot. Can he get it done? Absolutely. But I do think he is going a little over-owned in this spot. So while I'm going to have some, I'm not going 25+% on him. Next, we got James Harden, 9,100 versus the Kings. There's no Norm Powell, so Harden, it's going to be the Harden show. The issue, though, is that he is pretty much the entire team right now. Zubac takes some usage, but it's pretty bare after that. So I like Harden. He has to have an absolute huge game for them to have a chance in this spot. And I think there's absolutely a possibility, but 25%-ish owned is probably a little high. I'm going to have a decent amount, though. Next, we got Trae Young, 9,200 versus the Bulls. He's in a very good spot versus the Bulls. We haven't seen much out of him recently, but we do know there is that 50, 60-point ceiling, and I'm fine taking a few swings at good old Trae. Damian Lillard, 8,400. Look, he's priced just too low right now. He hasn't done much the last 2 games, but he's playing 36 minutes a night, and we've seen 3 60-point performances out of him this year in a game total that's 237, playing 36 minutes a night with his ability. I love the upside, and going a little bit lower owned, I think he's super interesting. Next, we got Kyrie Irving. Look, they priced Kyrie up. He's at 9,600, but there's no Luka. He pretty much takes that role, and he gets up to like a 1.4 fantasy per minute player without Luka on the court. So I think Kyrie is a very interesting spot. He is the center of this offense. He takes the Luka role. He does everything for the team, and I'm very interested in some Kyrie when I can get 50 or 60 burger at 9,600. Next, Kevin Porter Jr. This one's going to stay low owned. I think there's going to be a time that Kevin Porter gets real solid minutes. We've seen a couple games where he's got 25, 27 minutes. He's been mainly around that, 16, 17, 18 type, but his minutes are trending up. There's no Norm Powell, and he can be a lightning rod off the bench. We've seen him for years be a very good fantasy per minute producer. And at 4,300, I am absolutely willing to take some shots at this spot because I do know a 40 burger in, say, 25, 26 minutes is possible from him. It is not probable, but it is possible, and it's an okay matchup. So I'm willing to take some shots here on Kevin Porter Jr., and I'm going to keep doing it just because he's so low owned night in, night out, and I know there's going to be a pop in those minutes soon. The guy is too good to really keep him on the bench. I know he has, his issues, but he's pretty solid player. Tyrese Halliburton, 8,900. This is another spot where at 8,900, there's huge upside. I'm willing to go here. He is versus Lillard. They're 22 versus starting point guard. 50 or 60 is absolutely possible on an 8,900. That's an interesting spot with a 237 game total. I think you're going to need some points out of point guard. And if you're not playing Kyrie or, say, Harden, that's a very good spot to get some points. Now, let's get over to point guard on DraftKings. We got Trae Young going to high owned, 20% owned. I'm absolutely fine going some Trae. Next, we got Josh Giddey at 6K. Giddey has the ceiling to support this price, so I'm fine with it, but his median or his floor is super low, and his minutes have been inconsistent lately. 26, 29, 21, 15, 28. He's kind of all over the board with IO playing a little bit more. I don't mind taking some Giddey, but I do worry about these minutes a little bit. This is something that we have seen with him with OKC. So there is something coaches just do not like about him that, you know, they tend to start limiting some minutes to him. Next, we got Derek White, 6,900. Look, they're versus Washington. If Washington is able to keep this game at all close, then Boston profiles super good in this spot. But most likely outcome is a blowout and all the starters are playing under 30 minutes. Now, if the game stays close, there's huge upside potential. So I'm probably going to try and have some sort of Washington player in my lineup if I got a Boston guy. Because for these Boston guys to really go nuts, Washington has to stay close, I think. If they don't stay close, you know, they may be very efficient through three quarters, but then they're not going to play the fourth, and you're not getting those minutes, which it just becomes very, very hard to get a ceiling outcome out of them. So I'm tagging Washington guys with Boston guys. AO we talked about. Let's get over to shooting guard. So we got Zach LaVine, 33% AO's also there. LaVine at 7,400 is interesting. He has a 38 and a 42 in the last two. We saw a high of 50 just last week. He's too good to not want to consider at low 7Ks when he's been flirting with 40 points all season long and has a giant ceiling in a good matchup, 247.5 total. I'm definitely attacking this spot, and I'm fine having some LaVine. Just maybe not 33%. I'm probably going to be a little under the field on that spot. Pivot-wise, Kyrie Irving, we talked about. Bogdanovic. Look, he's back. He played 18 minutes. He played 23. I would expect a couple more minutes. If he gets to 25-ish and has kind of his normal role off the bench, there's absolutely a chance he can get it rolling. So I'm fine with some Bogdan. But until he hits, 28 minutes-ish, there's not huge ceiling. But at 4,500, you don't need quite as big of a ceiling for him. We got to figure out who Dallas is going to play. They're going to add somebody to the starting lineup. Is it Grimes or is it Hardy? It's going to be one of them. And I like really both of them regardless. I think extra minutes are coming their way. One of them probably gets 28 minutes. One probably gets 24-ish. Both are pretty interesting. And I'm going to have a good amount of them. Now, I don't know if I want Grimes and Hardy in the same lineup, but I'm absolutely fine with having one of the two in a big portion of my lineups. I think it's an interesting spot to go about. And right now, nobody's really going there. Next, we got Jalen Green, 6,300 versus the Trailblazers. Trailblazers are terrible. There's a huge upside to Green in this spot where he can really put up some points. My worry here is that it's a blowout. Houston can absolutely blow out guys. They can play some solid D, but Green has done very well versus the Trailblazers in the past. 39, 42, 48, 35 last year in a good spot versus them. I'm definitely a little bit intrigued. Not going to go super hard, but there's nice ceiling there. Tyrese we talked about, and we will move it on over. Jaden Hardy is also, we talked about him, but I wanted to just also like him to show you guys that I am intrigued in him. But he's really in that 18 to 22 minute range so far this season. Now, I would expect Grimes to be in the starting lineup and Hardy come off the bench. But if Hardy can get 24, 25 minutes, there's a solid ceiling. He's a decent producer off the bench, fantasy per minute wise, and I'm intrigued. We saw last year he had, some giant games and limited minutes. If he gets those minutes, he's in a great spot. Shooting guard on DraftKings, we got Levine, Lindy Waters. Lindy Waters is going to stay in the starting lineup. He's getting 26, 28 minutes, something like that. I just worry about his upside and limited minutes on, really being like the fifth option on the team of his lineup. Amen Thompson, 5,100. He's coming off the bench. There's a huge ceiling, especially with Portland. The one issue here is the guys that generally get squeezed in blowouts is the bench guys. They don't always, especially one of the first guys off the bench, because they won't get the extra minutes from a blowout. It'll be, the other guys off the bench. It'll be the 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that really get the extra run, not so much the 6 or 7. I don't mind him though. There is ceiling if the game stays close. I mean, he can give you 40. He's done it 4 times coming off the bench so far this year at 5,100. It's a little interesting. Small forward on FanDuel, Levine, Tatum, 2,300 or 23% owned, 10.5K. Look, Tatum's been just great this season, flirting with high 50s, 60s all the time, and I love this spot versus Washington. It's just the same with Derek White. I like the spot, but if I'm playing him, I'm bringing some Washington guy with me because that's the way you really unlock a ceiling from him. Torrey Craig, 3,800. He will likely start this game. He played 28 minutes last time. We got him at 24 right now, but if he gets that extra, 4 minutes, and he's playing with the starters, he starts to look pretty interesting. He's absolutely able to go back to 30 points or 25-ish at least. So interested in some T. Craig. Bogdan we talked about, and let's move it on over to DraftKings. Zach LaVine, Dylan Brooks, 3,800. We get consistent minutes. All right, the last 2 games, he only played 21 and 22, but he's generally in that 28 to 32 area. And you're talking about a team that's not very good versus the small forward. If the shot's falling, they're solid ceiling. He can get 30, not often, but he can. So I'm slightly interested in him. But if he is super high owned, it's not like he's going to fall into high usage. I think there's other spots I would rather go to. Tatum, we talked about. Thompson, we talked about. Amir Coffey, 4K. He's going to be starting, probably played 33 minutes. Can get you mid-20s, maybe 30. So fine going there as well. Power forward, Giannis, 11.8K, 30% owned, 5-star alert score. My one thing here is Lillard is back in the lineup. He just doesn't have the ceiling that he does with Lillard. He was able to do it last game. But I think he's probably going to start settling back down to that mid-50s, low 60s, instead of high 60s, 70s. And 11.8K, it's just a little high for me. I think I can get more for less. Onyeka Okongwu, look, he has some games off the bench that are huge. The issue for me with him on this slate, and because he's power forward eligible, I'll be getting to some of him, but not a ton, is that if I have him at the center position, I just feel like I can't really play him because Claxton is the bare minimum. And if Claxton plays, I'll be all over Claxton. Claxton is just so mispriced. It is wild. And I don't love the ceiling with Okongwu, with having Capella there. Capella's been playing, 25, 26 minutes a night lately, and I think that just severely hurts Okongwu. Can Okongwu get it done and get hot? Absolutely. We've seen it, 4 times this year. I just don't think it is the likely outcome. And going at higher ownership, I have some more reservations. Playing him at power forward, I'm fine having a little bit. Just I'm not doing it at center tonight with the Claxton situation. Domantas Sabonis is going to be back tonight, 9,500. If he can get me mid-50s and 9,500, I'm pretty intrigued when there's a lot of different guys I can go to in that high 8s, mid-8s range, and there's plenty of value to get multiple of those guys. I like this build more than going up to Giannis, just because you're getting more potential for those 60s out of your lineup instead of just one in Giannis. So he's a very interesting spot to me. And then Pascal Siakam, 7,500, just too big of an upside at his price when he's really lived right around 40. And I mean, if he gets me 42, I'm fine with it at 7,500. It's not killing my lineup, but that 42 gives me access to a 50 burger at 7,500, and absolutely willing to do that in a pace-up spot. So, on to power forward on DraftKings, we got Jabari Smith, Jason Tatum, and the Time Lord Robert Williams, 16% owned. Williams playing 25 minutes off the bench. Guy is 1.26 fantasy point per minute off the bench this year, and I don't mind that whatsoever. He is such a good fantasy producer that I don't care if he's only getting 24 minutes. It's kind of like Terry Eason, where Eason produces, so many stocks, block steals that he can really get it done. So I'm fine going to some Time Lord here. My one thing is that I'm probably playing him at power forward, not at center, because of the whole Claxton situation. Claxton is pretty much just a freebie at, we're talking DraftKings here. So Claxton's not a freebie over here. He is normal priced on DraftKings. Yeah, 5,800 on DraftKings. But yeah, so Time Lord definitely is in full consideration, both power forward or center. Now on to center for FanDuel, 3,500. That's a free square if he plays. If Claxton plays, I very well could just have 100%. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's 3,500 and has lived at like the 30 point. So almost living at 10x. Like, it's just going to be very hard to find more value than that. I'll take it and run with it. I think that if I don't play Claxton in the center spot, I'll probably be paying up. I'll play some Sabonis. I'll play some Jokic, a guy that can get me that 60 or 70 where Claxton can't really do it. I think the way that you can, if Claxton, does what he does, gets 30, the only way to really combat that if you don't have him is have one of those guys that puts up 70 or 80 and just, count on those real points to get it done. So it's pretty much how I'm playing center right now on FanDuel. If Claxton's out, then I spread it around a little bit more, and I'm fine to get some, say, Time Lord or Okongwu, Draymond, Alperen Sengun, Vooch. Then I'll probably get all of those guys a little bit. On to center on DraftKings, we got Jabari Smith, 4,600. 4,600 is getting pretty cheap for Jabari when he can go for 50 occasionally. Just put up 36. He's in an okay spot versus Portland. I don't mind going here. He's just inconsistent. Now, these inconsistencies are really good for DFS. However, I generally like playing these type of guys when they're low owned, not high owned. When they're high owned, I'll lean into their inconsistency and just fade them. So that is my one worry here, is that while he is just as likely to go 36 as he is 10, if he's high owned, I'll hope for the 10 and go elsewhere. Robert Williams, 4,800. We talked about him. I like it. Totally down. 5,300 for Capella. Capella starting to play a few more minutes. Only 22 last game, but 28 the game before that. We see some 26s in there. If he gets 26, 28 minutes, he can hit 40. He produces, at a pretty high rate when he's getting the minutes. So slightly intrigued to go with him. The one worry is if Claxton's there. Well, sorry. This is DraftKings again. One worry is just he's not going to get 32 minutes. He's not going for 50. That's very, very doubtful. And there's other guys that can do it. So that'll do it for us today, guys. Real quick, I like Vooch too versus the Hawks, just on the other side of that. He's a walking 40 burger versus the Hawks and 50-point ceiling. That'll do it for us today, guys. We are done with the NBA this week. We will be back next week. Have a great weekend. Let's make some money. See you later. Peace.